All righty. You all are all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Todd, just feel free to interrupt me with any comments as well as
Sure.
questions. That'd be great. Sometimes people make really good comments about what they would use as a substitute or other ideas. So I think that's a really good thing to share on the mic, you know.
Yeah, I will also mention you in those comments.
Okay, great.
Hey there, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back, everybody. All my friends coming back into the room. That's great. Hey, Teresa.
Hi.
Martha.
Hi.
Hello, Marianne. Hi, Kira.
Hi, I don't have a camera on this computer.
Okay. Glad you
I
told
think-
me. Thank you for
I
telling
figure
me.
you don't have to see how messy my hair looks.
We all have those days, you know. Sometimes I just can't look. I just have to do it and not look. Hi, Ramona. Looks like you're here on 2 devices. Or are there 2 Ramonas? Wow, that would be interesting. Hey, Grisha, welcome back.
Hi, Deb. How are you?
Very well. And thank you so much for your feedback, by the way. That was so nice.
You're welcome. I'm feeling I need this today. My little puppy's in the emergency, not a puppy, a 13-year-old. She had like a seizure this morning, so they had made me leave her there. So I'm not thinking clearly. So I needed this to take my mind off of things. So thank you.
Yeah, that's really, the time seems to go by so slowly when you're waiting for results or waiting to understand what's going on. Other times it goes by too quickly, but
That's for sure.
Hey, Sandra.
How are you? What time is it where you are?
It is noon where I am.
Okay. I was just talking to my husband this morning after our walk, and I'm like, why are the classes so early for me? Because they're like 8 and 9 o'clock.
Oh,
and it's like
where are you, Sandra?
In Las Vegas. And I'm like, that was it. It was something you said yesterday. And I'm like, so the time for pretty much all you instructors are way beyond where I am. So everything is pretty early.
Yeah, there are many of us on the East Coast, but we're also working on that. And actually, some of the folks that teach in Australia and other parts of the world are big ones to tune into, I guess, from your side of the country.
Yeah. I've taken some classes with, I guess, Michael. Is it Michael? He's over there. Yeah. So I've taken a couple classes with him, and I've taken some classes from Australia, from one of my cooking classes. So that's like every 2 weeks on Thursday. So it's like, okay, 4 o'clock my time, and it's 11 or 10 o'clock the next morning. So it took me a while to get that one. I missed a couple classes thinking it was, 11 o'clock my time, Friday, which they were already on Saturday. So
just putting that time down. I get that. I understand. And that's something we're working on too, just to try to see where and when people are coming in and offering some of these classes at different hours too. So we can catch the early birds over there on the other coast.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we have a good group today. Lots of my friends are back, and I think I need to see some new faces. Is there anyone who's brand new here to get set up? Darla, hi. Are you brand new?
I'm new to this class.
New to this class.
Yes, I've been taking a couple of classes here and there, but you're my first food class.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody else that's new to Okay, Mary Ann, are you new to Get Set Up or just to my classes? Just to my classes. Okay, well, I'm delighted that you're here. Thanks for coming. Today, so I've just started to actually do these classes, or at least some of them from my kitchen. So this is the first time I will have done the healthy desserts class from my kitchen. And we're still kind of feeling our way in the process and seeing what works and getting feedback. So my usual classes are that I pick a topic and then curate several recipes that I have always tested first and deemed something I would eat. So I wouldn't pass on anything that was not something that I would eat. And today what I'm going to do is maintain that, but along the way, I'm going to make one of the desserts. So we'll see how that works. I'm going to kind of flip back and forth as I'm doing this and see if this is something that you enjoy. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get formally started here. And about now, you should be able to see my slide that says healthy desserts that taste great too. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. For those of you who have not really met me before, my name is Deb Livingston. I'm a guide on the East Coast, which is what we were just talking about with Sandra. I live in York, Pennsylvania. And my background is in business, adult and organizational development. I've done a lot of training and coaching over the years with employees and with leaders. And now I'm doing this, have parlayed those skills into something that's like a second act here. That's a lot of fun in talking about cooking and sharing ideas with you all. So I think these classes are a lot of fun, especially when we can learn together. So you'll find that I really welcome you to participate. That is, be on camera. That's great if you can be. Sometimes you have a bad hair day. I get that. I don't expect you to feel like you have to be on camera, but it always adds to the energy of the class when you are on camera and when you use your microphone to just chime in with questions and comments and so on. But we also have a chat box, and so you can use that chat box liberally. Todd is here. He's our TA support, so he can give you a hand with any kind of technical issues you have through the chat. And he's also going to be monitoring the chat in case there are comments or questions along the way that I'm not catching. I won't check the chat because he's checking it. So let's make sure that you do get your questions answered if you have any along the way. Get my attention somehow. Okay. So we are recording this class, and you can request a copy of the recording from this email address, of course, that you're familiar with, helpitgetsetup.io. And there are people joining us perhaps by live stream. So I want to say hello to all of those folks. And I want to welcome you to register for a class and come into a class like this and participate in the conversation. It's a lot of fun. Lastly, I will say that there is nothing that I'm showing you today that provides Get Set Up nor myself with any kind of financial compensation or anything like that. We just share information that we think will be helpful to you. So that's my little disclaimer there. So there's a lot in this class. This is one of my earlier classes that I designed. It's been around a little while, and I have a lot of information packed into it. I try to do a little bit less these days to get more conversation going, but this one's ambitious. We're going to talk a little bit, first of all, about what makes a dessert unhealthy to begin with. Since you're coming for healthy desserts, well, we have to start with, well, why not? Why are they not healthy? And then I want to just give you a thumbnail sketch of some dietary guidelines that give you a sense of, what is it that you should be striving for in a day's worth of eating, and how does a dessert fit in? And then we can talk about ways to make desserts healthier. There are some strategies there, and I have some products to share with you, some ideas to share with you. And then we'll go through some recipes, and I do have one recipe that fits nicely into this time frame, so I'm going to attempt to make that. And you can either learn from me or you can laugh at me, depending on how it goes. So it should be interesting either way, I think. It's one of my favorites. So I'm kind of curious if you'll just unmute yourself and tell me, what is your favorite dessert? What do you really enjoy?
I like
Chocolate.
Good. Try again. Kira, start with you.
I like anything with lemon.
Lemon. Okay. Good deal. Now, who was the second person?
I think it was me, Sandra. I
Yeah.
like cakes and chocolate.
Okay. So today we're going to have a little bit of chocolate in our recipe. We're going to have a little bit of cake that has a little bit of lemon, Kira. So we're going to
Oh,
stay
good.
tuned because I'm going to do some things with lemon in a later class. So you might want to tune in for that. And who else? Yeah.
Cream cheese.
What was that one? Did somebody say cheesecake? Or
Cream cheese.
Cream cheese. Oh, cream cheese. You like that as a dessert or you like that as an
Well,
ingredient?
mixed with, made with something, but a lot with cream cheese.
Okay, well, guess what? We're
That's good.
and go ahead, Elsa.
I in particular like something called flan, and it's like a custard.
I like flan. In fact, I was thinking about that for a recipe. I'm doing a Mexican fiesta class later today. And I didn't select flan this time, but it will be on the short list for another class when we talk about Mexican food, because it's a good one. Yeah, go ahead, Joyce. Can you unmute yourself?
I'm
you're
sorry.
still- Let's try this.
Thank you.
Hello.
There you go.
Okay, I like apple pie and ice cream.
Apple pie and ice cream?
Not together, but that's one of my favorites.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's all American, isn't it? Apple pie and ice cream. All right.
Peach cobbler.
We're soon going to be on that season, aren't we? Peach cobbler, delicious. It's a little warm. Do you like it warm?
Warm with ice cream.
Oh my gosh, killing us here. Okay. Well, I can't name a favorite. Darla, were you going to name one? Do you want to unmute yourself? There you go. Here, let me, you're still not unmuted. Let me send you a, there you go.
Okay, chocolate chip cookie, any kind of cookie that is soft and chocolate, lemon cake. So I have a wide variety.
Okay, so something is bound to strike you in this class today. Very good.
Yes, and sweet potato pie.
And sweet potato pie. I must say I've never had a sweet potato pie. I make pumpkin pies all the time, but never any sweet potato pies. And I understand they're very different and they're very good. So we'll have to have one of you on to help me through the making of a sweet potato pie, perhaps in the fall, when that comes around again. It feels like a fall pie to me somewhat. Okay, so I wanted to just recognize you for how well you're doing with your microphones. I appreciate that. You take yourself off mic and ask questions or add suggestions, and then you put yourself back on mic. That's really good, or back on mute, because we do get some background noises in the way. So when you do that, that's very helpful to all of us. And so let's move on. So what does make a dessert unhealthy for you? In your opinion, what is it that when you say, oh, I shouldn't eat that, that's not very healthy?
Lots of sugar.
And butter.
Sugar, fat, butter, especially. Okay. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the cobbler I like usually has lots of sugar.
Yeah. Almost all of these desserts have lots of sugar. Yeah. Anything else you can think of? I have a few more. So for
Salt.
Salt. Okay, salt can be if you have too much in there. And usually that might come along with something that is a prepared dessert that you buy at the store, because there's a lot of hidden sodium in those. In desserts that we have at home made from scratch, there isn't as much, and you can really, you only use a tad, so it's not too bad. but you do have to watch the sodium in processed foods. Yeah.
Let's
we
go-
want- Go ahead.
Okay, this goes under the sugar column, I guess, but corn syrup.
Yes, absolutely.
A
That's
lot of good recipes have that in it.
pecan pie. I have a recipe for pecan pie here that's
Right.
made without corn syrup, but that's a big one.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, so sugar in all of its forms is just a real problem. And you know, those couple things that I have listed at the top there, too many calories, too large a serving. They somewhat go together, but not necessarily. Too many calories, of course, just adds to the daily calorie intake and can cause us to gain weight. So that's kind of unhealthy. And then this serving size that we've become accustomed to in our country is just absolutely without reason. And I like to say in this class, and maybe some of you who've been here before have heard me say that, ask whether, what a serving of ice cream is. Do you know what one serving of ice cream is? In
A
terms
half a
of-
cup.
It's a
Half a
half a
cup.
cup. You're absolutely right, Darla. It's a half of a cup. And how indignant we would be if we went to an ice cream shop and we asked for an ice cream cone and they gave us a half of a cup of ice cream. So we're just very conditioned to eat way more than one serving of just about everything. And that leads to a consumption or an overconsumption of sugar and fat and also refined white flour. That's another thing. Sugar and flour both have no nutrition. So they're not healthy in that respect. And then in a second respect, they're not healthy because they spike our blood sugar. They cause an insulin surge in our bodies. They are, when eaten in too much quantity, responsible for a lot of type 2 diabetes in this country. So sugar and white flour are two ingredients that we want to really seek to make some changes with. Fortunately, there are options. And there are also options with the idea of too much fat. We should be getting about less than 23 grams of saturated fat in our diet per day. So we can have saturated fat, but we need to be aware of how much we're consuming. And sometimes, as Sandra was saying, the butter can be overly much and we need to find some other strategies. Not that we can't use butter, but maybe we can find ways to moderate that a little bit. Elsa, you had your hand up.
Yes, just a question. All-purpose unbleached flour is considered refined white flour.
Yes. And it is made from the ectosperm of the wheat grain, which has no nutritional value. The bran and the germ are discarded in that case. So it's light and fluffy and it makes for really nice light cakes. And not every recipe can be amended because of the lightness. Can you imagine making an angel food cake with whole grain flour? It just would not work very well. But there are certainly ways that you could minimize that when you can and get less of that in your diet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So those are some of the things that make dessert unhealthy. And looking at the dietary guidelines that the government puts out once every 5 years, it's a big book online that you can find. Just pulling a snippet out of there for our age demographic. And you can see that when it comes to fat in our diet, there's three macronutrients: fat, carbohydrate, and protein. So we're dealing mostly with the fat and carbohydrate here as the potentially bad ingredients. Fat being the grams of saturated fat that we use in a dessert. So as I mentioned, less than 23 grams per day, both men and women, is what we should be getting. And when it comes to carbohydrates, you see that it's a large percentage of our daily calories, but it isn't the kind of carbohydrates that we find typically in desserts, because this is saying we should really be getting good quality carbohydrates that are what are called complex carbohydrates. They have a lot of fiber in them and they take a while to digest. And for that reason, they don't spike our blood sugar. They don't cause that insulin surge. They don't they don't lend themselves to creating diabetes. So complex carbohydrates is what we're looking for in the form of whole grains and vegetables and such. But what we get in our desserts are, again, the refined things like the refined white flour and the white sugar, the granulated sugar or the confectioner sugar or the high fructose corn syrup. Those are simple carbohydrates and should be a minimal part of this. In fact, when we look at what sugar, how much sugar we should actually add to our diet a day, that would be sugar that's not found in a natural, like a berry or a piece of orange or an apple. We should be getting less than, and probably way less than 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day. 9 if we're nine for men. And that equates to no more than 25 grams of sugar. So you might just jot that number down for future reference as we're looking at the dessert nutrition profiles as we go along here. And some of you will already know this because we talk about it in other classes. How many teaspoons of sugar are in a 20-ounce bottle of Coke? Anybody know? 12? A little bit more. Go ahead, Joyce.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Is it 16?
It is 16. So you can see that's about 3 times more than 3 times what we should be having here if we're going for under 6 teaspoons. So, I like to think of it this way. If we eliminate the soda from our diet, we get a little more wiggle room with those desserts that we might enjoy. And we can make a healthy dessert too. So if we're eating sugar, we can get a good health punch. When we're drinking soda, we're getting nothing. It's all a negative. There is not one positive thing about soda. So what can our strategies be here for making our desserts healthier or making them less bad, less unhealthy? And we can do both. Improve the nutritional profile, reduce the negative attributes. So we start with that flour category, and we begin with using less all-purpose flour. Incidentally, I wanted to mention, I see some of you are taking notes. I'm glad you're doing that on some of this information, but I want you to know when it comes to the recipes, I'll be sending all of those out after class in the form of links that you can click on and go right to the websites to look at the recipes as we see them today, okay? So I think it's that way. It's either that or it's going to be attachments. I've been kind of changing that along, but you're going to get the recipes. So make sure you get that email. So less all-purpose flour, more whole grain flour. And like I said, not every recipe is going to lend itself to changing that out. But generally speaking, you can add up to half of that total flour in the recipe in whole grain. So you can at least cut it in half. Now, one of the things I do frequently, because it's so hard to know, unless you're really an expert baker, how you can substitute these things out, is that I'll Google recipes and then read in the notes, because many times the people who make these recipes do test them out with different things. And so if you find a recipe that you're not sure about, look into those comments and see if you can find someone who has tried that. The other thing that's completely different is to get rid of the flour altogether. That's what a lot of folks do who are gluten-free, gluten intolerant, or low-carb diets. So they're looking for an alternative. And has anyone ever heard of using black beans or avocados instead of flour when making brownies? Yeah, Grisha, have you ever made them? No? Well, we're going to look at a recipe for that today. It was a toss-up whether I'd make those or what the other thing that I'm going to make. So we'll just go through the recipe. It's very easy to make, and I think you might enjoy them. Has anyone else, sometimes people come into the class and say, hey, I made those brownies. And has anyone made them from a previous class? Okay. All right, so we're going to look at that. And the great thing about this is not only does it get rid of this bad ingredient, but it gives us good ingredients, because black beans are very high in protein, vitamin B, and also fiber. And here's a little number you can write down. We should be getting 25 grams of fiber in our diet a day. And we sometimes have to be pretty intentional about that if we're not eating beans and if we're not eating whole grain bread, because vegetables themselves have a couple of grams here and there, but you have to eat a lot of fresh vegetables to get fiber. So avocados, as well as beans, have a lot of fiber. A half of an avocado actually has 5 grams of fiber in it. And not that you're eating a whole half of an avocado in this brownie, it's going to be kind of minimal, but that's just an aside. But if you include more avocados in your diet, you're going to get more fiber, and you're going to get another benefit, which is omega-3 fatty acids. Another thing that we need to be intentional about getting, because they're found in fewer foods than some of the other fats that are out there. So let me just stop and see what questions you have or comments you have about this category of flour.
I have a question with the brownies that you make with the avocado or the black beans. Is the taste really different? Can you tell that there is something other than the normal way of making the brownies?
Were you saying something, Karen?
I've made black bean brownies and I love them.
So it's no taste difference.
Not that I've noticed.
Okay.
Then again, I don't taste very well, but.
Oh.
Well, and you know, that's the same thing with avocado brownies. I was going through that recipe again today, and I've made them several times and they get great reviews and nobody knows the difference. But there was one person who commented in the whole recipe review that, oh, they couldn't take the taste. Everybody in their family could taste the avocado. That was one person who said that, no one else.
Okay.
So I guess, you know, we do have particular taste buds and you may be ultra sensitive to that, but it would be worth a try. I find these brownies to be very fudgy and very chocolatey. If you like a dense brownie, that's what they are. They're very good that way.
So do you just grind those black beans up? Is that what you do?
That's all you do. You put them in a food processor, canned black beans. So I don't have a recipe for black beans today, but that's what you would do. Just drain them, rinse them, and grind them in the food processor, or mix them up in the food processor into like a paste. Same thing with the avocado. You're going to blend that so that all the avocado is blended in, but we'll get into that when we get into the recipe. So when it comes to fat, there's some strategies there. We can lower the amount of saturated fat grams that we look at on the back of a container by using lower fat versions of things. Now, if you're using butter, use real butter and use a good quality butter, because butter varies depending upon quality with the amount of water that's in it. So don't skimp on butter when you do use it. But you can use lower fat versions of milk, cream cheese, yogurt, those things. I wouldn't go with the non-fat. I think that the non-fat is filled with other ingredients that are less healthy for us. So go with low fat, lower fat. And then where you can, substitute some of the healthy fats like avocado, olive, and canola oil. Stay away from the generic vegetable oil. It's really inexpensive at the grocery store. You can buy like a gallon of it for $2. So I'm being a little facetious, but you can buy a lot of it for really inexpensive compared to the price of extra virgin olive oil and even now avocado oil as it gets more popular. But you get what you pay for. And the vegetable oils are not very high quality at all. And so these healthy fats, and I would also add coconut oil to this. Coconut oil does have saturated fat, but it's a healthy and good oil to use. You can use two kinds. You can use refined or unrefined. Yeah, go ahead. Is there a question? No? So just a point on the coconut oil. If you buy unrefined coconut oil, it's going to have more of a coconut flavor. The refined does not. or if it does, it's very minimal. I like using the unrefined when I make brownies because I don't mind my brownies having a coconut flavor. So you can change that up a little bit. And you can also use a lot of pureed fruits in place of fat. So has anyone ever used applesauce when they've made a cake or muffins? Yeah, yeah. And what do you think? Did it change it up? Did it make it?
Made it more moist to me.
Yeah, more moist. That's desirable, right? Yeah, so you can use applesauce in a lot of things, and that's the most common thing that you see out there. But you know, you can use pureed prunes. And I remember one of my mom's favorite cakes when we were kids was prune cake. You know, what kid? Oh, Mom, you're making prune cake. But it was really quite delicious, and it was using these principles from way back then. And you can use puree. So pureed prunes might go better in something chocolate or something that's already dark because, of course, the color is dark. But you can use peaches, you can use pumpkin, avocado again, and mashed banana. And it depends on the recipe. Sometimes you can use a half of cup of puree per cup instead of 1 cup of butter. Sometimes it's 1 to 1. So it kind of goes with the recipe a little bit.
So how would you determine how much pureed fruit you would use in place of the butter?
So sometimes I just do some Googling to see what read comments in recipes, but I've also experimented a little bit just on my own, and I don't find it to be too picky. The other day I made carrot cake cupcakes, and I used kind of a combination of 2 recipes, and I really wanted to put pineapple in there. So I just threw a half a cup of pineapple in, and they were delicious. I didn't really change anything up too much, just added that. So it was pretty forgiving. Can experiment a little bit.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Debbie?
Yes, Joyce?
Deb, I don't have to leave now.
Okay, well, thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Okay.
It's 12:30. I'm just checking. Yep, hope to see you again soon.
All right. You will.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So this last category that everybody's been talking about is sugar. You know, 1/3 to 1/2 less sugar would go a long way to cutting the negative attributes of a dessert. And a way to do that, I'm always challenging people in this class, is to take a sugar hiatus or a sweet hiatus break for 2 weeks, and just don't eat anything sweet for 2 weeks. If you have a sweet tooth, try to break it by doing that. And when you come back, your taste buds will be adjusted a little bit, and you will find that the usual amount of sugar may taste too sweet to you now. If you've ever gone from drinking regular soda to drinking diet soda, or going from regular soda to not drinking soda and then tried the regular soda again, has anybody ever done that and found that, oh my gosh, that's way too sweet now? So that's what happens when you take a sugar break, and you might try that and then come back and start using less in the recipes that you use. So that's strategy number 1. The second strategy is to, at the very least, use a natural sugar as a replacement for table sugar, because table sugar does have 0 nutritional value. Things like maple syrup, palm sugar, coconut sugar, molasses, all do have a little bit of nutritional benefit, as does honey. It's still sugar though, so I want to make that really clear. It's still going to be a simple carbohydrate that is absorbed and digested by your system pretty quickly and does raise your blood sugar.
What about the raw organic sugar?
Same thing.
Same thing?
Yeah, same thing. There's really not a whole lot. Actually, sugar in the raw is a little more of a marketing thing. It makes us feel like it's healthy because it's not white, and it's sugar in the raw, and it's clever what they do to get us to buy things that they think that they're healthier.
Okay.
I have been watching a lot of the British Bake Off show, and they use something called Cantor sugar all the time. What is that? And is
Oh, yeah.
very-
So did you say it's camphor?
No, it's
No,
called
it's
castor.
CANT.
It's called
That's it.
castor sugar.
Oh,
And
castor.
castor sugar basically it's white but it looks like that sugar in the raw.
Here's
So it's
castor.
no better for you then.
No,
it's
no,
not.
no.
No, it's just it just that in the baking show, the cubes of the sugar are taken in larger, so they don't take in melt as taken in fast when you're taking like sand cookies and stuff. So it's castor sugar. All that is sugar.
And you know, it says here castor sugar can either be, it can actually either be granulated or also powdered. So it's, well, it's,
Sugar is sugar, though, I guess.
it's still sugar. Yeah, it's still sugar. So, yeah. What we can do is look at some options. You can use something called sugar alcohols. There's many of them. They are natural substances. They are absorbed but not digested in our system, so they do not spike our blood sugar. So they are a good alternative. Erythritol is one of the sugar alcohols that has the probably best taste with no aftertaste. Xylitol is another one. Xylitol is cold to your tongue when you put it on. It's an interesting sensation, but it's very sweet. Sometimes these, because of the way that they do not get digested, move through our system, and if you eat too much of it, can cause similar reactions to what beans might cause when you eat a lot of beans, or don't eat them for a while and then eat them. So that sort of thing. But I wouldn't be overly concerned. You can start slowly, try that. Sometimes what I do is make a recipe, if I'm making it for family, half and half with sugar or something like that. So I don't notice any of these, but it's something to pass on, that there could be that kind of side effect. I don't even want to call it a side effect because that makes it sound serious, but it's a good alternative. And there are blends out there now that I'll show you that usually measure 1 for 1. But again, it's a tasting thing. I'm really taking to tasting a lot of my batters and a lot of my recipes. Instead of just looking at the recipe and automatically putting in there what it calls for, I start with a little less and then I taste and then I add if I need to. And that's another way to maybe start moderating your sugar. Who has used stevia?
I have.
Yeah. So how do you use stevia, Teresa?
Basically, it's a one-on-one. You can cook with it just like regular sugar. And my husband being a diabetic, that's basically all he will use.
Okay. So stevia is an herb and it looks like this. Wanted to get this out ahead of time. I grew it in my garden and I pulled the leaves off and I dried it in the oven and then I powdered it in my food processor. And that's what it looks like, very powdered. And I can use it in little amounts. It's many, many, many times sweeter than sugar. So Teresa, I'm guessing that if you're using it in a blend of something, because you would not be able to use this cup for cup. It would be way too sweet. Now this is found in the supermarket in refined form so that it's white and it dissolves. I can use this in recipes that are dark where I don't care about the green color, in tea if I don't care that not all of it dissolves, that sort of thing, but that's the raw pure type.
Now, does the stevia have an aftertaste?
It can taste a little bitter because it is so much more sweet than sugar. So you want to just use a tiny bit. This is what I use in my tea. I use maybe half of this packet. That's plenty for me. Okay. So what do you have there, Teresa? You have a brand.
It's stevia. This is the Walmart brand here, Great Value, but they also have it at Publix, almost like in a little sugar container that my husband uses on his cereal in the morning. But this is the Walmart if you're going to need more of it than just, for cereal.
Can you please look at the back of that where it has the ingredients and tell me what the ingredients list is? Does it just say stevia?
Ingredients, maltodextrin, stevia extract. It does say may contain traces of milk and soy.
Okay. And what does it say with the maltodextrin? What does it say as far as calories are concerned?
0.
Okay.
Fat 0, sodium 0, carbohydrates 0, protein 0. So
good. Sounds like you found one that you like. So maltodextrin or maltodextrin, is that what it is? Maltodextrin.
No, maltodextrin.
Maltodextrin is a white starchy powder that manufacturers add into many foods to improve their flavor, thickness, or shelf life. Maltodextrin is a common ingredient in packaged foods such as pastries, candies, and soft drinks. When it is present, it will usually feature on the food level or label. And so it's usually made from corn, rice, or potato starch, or even wheat. So it's one of those things you can be a little careful of if you're gluten intolerant, depending upon where that comes from. So just be aware that that stevia is not the only ingredient in the product there, and you want to make sure that for your particular case that you're getting that you're using the right things for your body. And I think that with the maltodextrin in there, what's happening is it's also cutting the stevia so that you can measure it out like you would measure sugar.
Yeah, it says measure cup for cup, just like sugar.
Yeah, so they add an ingredient in there that makes that possible since stevia is so strong. So monk fruit is another sugar that comes from the monk fruit itself. It is really a sugar, but it's not a sugar that our bodies recognize as such. So again, it doesn't spike our blood sugar. And it's
what about nectars?
Nectars?
Yeah.
Like fruit nectars? Like
yeah. I have a fig nectar that I bought. How would you use that? Is that?
I would probably use it sparingly in things. It would be a concentrated juice, so it would have a lot of fruit sugar in it.
Okay. Thanks.
So these are some of the products that you see in the store that you might use with the erythritol, monk fruit sweetener here. Also with erythritol, it's a combination of things. Again, they combine them so that they can be measured out just the same as sugar. And then I like this better than sugar too. And so I have some of this. And I also have allulose, which is another, this is a natural ingredient that is found. It's a prebiotic fiber. It's actually found in beans and such. So it's sweet like sugar, but it doesn't get absorbed and it doesn't spike your blood sugar, or it doesn't get digested and spike your blood sugar. Okay, so I want to get into the recipe here because I'm well aware that it's 12:41. And so just know this, that if we don't get too far with recipes, you're getting all of them. And I want to show you the one here that I think is really healthy, tasty, has lots of options for changing it up. This is for those of you who said they like cream cheese, or like cheesecake. So this is a cheesecake in a glass. So let me get to my recipe here and I will get started. So I have my trusty little food processor here. I love this because it fits nicely in a drawer for me and I don't have to go down to the basement and bring up an appliance. I have a small kitchen, small space. I'm very judicious about buying appliances. I don't like them sitting all over my counter. And I know I'm too lazy to go to the basement and pull them out of places that are inconvenient. So what I'm going to do here is make a crust for my cheesecake, and that is made out of 4 sheets of graham crackers. So I just got regular graham crackers. and put them in my little food processor here. What makes this a little healthier, I mean, these do have sugar in them, is that we're going to take up some of the space with pecans. So we're adding some healthy nuts here, about 1/3 of a cup of pecans. So I soak my nuts and then I slow dry them in the oven, and that makes them, the nutrients in them more available, bioavailable. And so put that in there. And it calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. All of this in the crust. Now you see, oh, I already measured that out, so I don't even have to measure. So 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon.
What do you soak your pecans in?
Salt water overnight. Then,
Oh, okay.
then I slow bake them in an oven at 150 degrees for about 12 hours or until they're crispy. So sorry for the noise. And now they're finished. And what I'm going to do with these is set the crust aside, but take a little bit out because I'm going to use some of these crumbs for my topping. So just maybe a spoon and a half setting aside in a dish for later. So set that aside. I'm going to get rid of this. And now I'm going to do the filling. And the filling's very easy. I'm going to use a block of cream cheese. This is, unfortunately, I didn't have Neuchâtel. I grabbed these on sale the other day. They're regular cream cheese, but you can use the Neuchâtel. That's 1/3 less fat than regular. That's the same way. So this is one of the ingredients. The second ingredient that is going to be added here to the cream cheese is some low-fat plain Greek yogurt. This recipe calls for non-fat, but you know what I think about that. Just go with the low-fat. So what I had in my refrigerator, I ran out of Greek yogurt. My husband had bought regular yogurt the other day. But do you know what you do when you run out of regular yogurt and you need Greek yogurt? Anybody know?
You strain it, put it in a strainer and strain, yeah.
Because you want to get rid of the extra liquid. Greek
Yeah.
yogurt is nothing more than regular yogurt that has had the whey reduced from it. Now this whey that comes out the bottom here is good to keep if you have it from any of your yogurt, and you can soak your oatmeal in that, your dry oats. When we talk about soaking oats overnight, this is one way to reduce those bad anti-nutrients that are in the nuts as well. You know, that breaks those phytates down when you're soaking your oats. So the whey will help that to happen. So what I'm looking for here is 1/3 of a cup of this non-fat yogurt.
Sorry for interrupting, Deb. Margaret has a question for you in the chat.
Okay, can you read that to me?
Sure. She's saying, if I substitute sugar with one of the alternative choices, would I use the same amount? And what about brown sugar? What is the difference?
Okay, so the first question first, would you use the same amount? You would read the bag, first of all, to see what they're telling you, because different products are different. And then follow those instructions. And I'm not sure I'm clear about what your question was on the brown sugar. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, hi, this is Margot. No, so for the first one, let's say if it was 1 cup of sugar and you had suggested maybe using maple syrup or honey, would I use 1 cup of maple syrup? Or, I mean, I know that would change the taste a bit, but is it one kind of ratio?
No, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not sure that you would be able to do 1-to-1 with using sugar versus maple syrup. Again, it would depend upon the recipe, because in some cases you wouldn't necessarily want a liquid. If you were baking a cake, a liquid sugar might not work. So that's a really kind of complex question.
Okay.
Maple syrup. Alexa, how many times sweeter than maple syrup is sugar? See if she knows this.
Here's something I found on the web. According to the spruceseeds.com, pure maple syrup is 3 times as sweet as regular table sugar.
Maple syrup is 3 times as sweet as regular sugar. I can't hold all that in my head. I know that's different for everything, but that's exactly why we have Alexa. So, by the way, we have classes on how to use Alexa, how to get yourself set up on Alexa. So if you would find Alexa to be helpful in your kitchen and you don't have one, we have a way to help that be a little easier. So I now have the yogurt in there, and now I'm adding a cup of pumpkin puree. Now, here's what I'm going to experiment with. I'm going to experiment with doing a few fruit puree, like berries, might be strawberries, maybe mixed berries, and I'm going to sub it out and try to make this recipe with those ingredients. I think it would work fine. I also think you can do something nice here with lemon. But anyway, we're just doing that right now. And I'm going to add some pumpkin pie spice, which you can buy at the store, mixed already, or you can look at the recipe when I send it. There will be a link to making your own pumpkin pie spice if you like, which is what I did here. Now, I didn't have any allspice today, so I didn't add it into my recipe. I'm not all that fond of it, so I'm okay with not having allspice in my recipe. But I mixed it up, and now I won't have to mix that up again. But if you just like cinnamon or just a little cinnamon and nutmeg, I think what's in this is, in total, it's, of course, mostly cinnamon. That's the biggest part of it. Cinnamon, ginger, cloves, nutmeg, and allspice. And it calls for a teaspoon of that. So I'm just going to add a teaspoon.
Deb, can I ask you an unrelated food item? A question?
Sure.
Who were you talking to with Alexa? I thought that was only for a telephone. In a telephone.
No, this is my little, she's over here in the corner.
Oh.
Hooked up to my internet.
Really?
Wi-Fi, and I can just talk to her and say, you know, Alexa, well, have to be careful. See, she hears everything I say.
Oh my goodness, I thought you had it, it's only on a telephone.
Oh no, Alexa is right here in my back pocket. So
my
now,
Alexa responded to you on there.
yes, or the little light came on. She's waiting. She's listening. So this called for a teaspoon of maple syrup, or excuse me, a teaspoon of vanilla and 6 tablespoons of maple syrup. So that's our sugar in this, in addition to whatever would be in those cracker crumbs, and there's not that much. And so this is going to make, the recipe says it makes, oops. The recipe says it makes 8 servings. I'm going to beg to differ on that. I think it makes 6 really nice servings. You can make it with 8. It's just going to be, it's nice. Well, talking about serving size, I guess it would be prudent to make 8, but I'll show you what I'm using and why I say 6. Okay. So I can certainly make this now, but the one thing that I will have to do, I guess I can't really assemble it totally, because what we should do with this is let it in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to really set up. So I'm just going to beat this. And this is my grandmother's bowl. Does anybody else cook with their grandmother's?
I have the exact same bowl.
What's that?
I have the exact same bowl.
Do you really?
Yes, I do. I'm as old as probably your grandmother, great grandmother, Deb.
Well, she's been gone for quite a while, but there isn't a time that I use this bowl and I don't think of her.
I'm sure.
Sorry, I'm working this up as fast as possible.
I think I missed it. What did, I walked out. What are you making?
So what I'm making here is a healthier no-bake pumpkin cheesecake.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So, yeah, I'm sorry if I didn't say that clearly. So I might give this another little beat after the class, but basically it looks like this, about this kind of thickness. And it's supposed to set up first, but you know what? I'm going to make one up just so you see how it should look. So I had a friend who brought some ready-made desserts over that they bought at Costco. And I said, hey, do you mind if I keep those glasses? Because she was just going to get rid of them. They're perfect. So I can use these glasses. They are all the way up to the top. They're 6 ounces. So
I have some of those too. They come in handy. I have 2 sets of different desserts that I got from
they're
Costco.
perfect,
Yeah.
aren't they?
Yeah,
It's
they're
like
really
you
neat.
get the dessert when you buy them, and then you get this added bonus of a glass. So
Yeah.
that would be nice. So save those, because then I even keep the little plastic carrying case, and I've taken these on the road to a friend's house for dessert. Which is
Yeah.
why I also really like these desserts, because they have the cheesecake taste, but they're light, they're refreshing, and they don't fill you up after a big full meal. And everybody that I've served them to really likes them. So I'm just going to put some of the crumbs in the bottom. Even add a little bit more. I like that. You can dig down in. Just divide the crumbs evenly. There's quite a few left here, so just divide them evenly. And then, as I said, this would have been more set if I would have let it refrigerate for 30 minutes, but it'll be okay. So I do that, and then you can make your own whipped cream, but why? You know, this way you only need to make what you are actually going to use, just what you use, and it looks pretty. And then those reserved crumbs. Beautiful and delicious. And how much time did that take me?
Not very long.
Minutes.
That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you let it, does it have to set up in the fridge, Deb, or?
Yeah, 30 minutes is a good time. You
okay.
should actually let it set up in the bowl in the refrigerator and then assemble it. That makes it easier.
Okay.
The other thing I would do, although it says on here that you can just beat all of the ingredients together at one fell swoop, I was just looking at how this was going, and it would have been better for me to mix that cream cheese on its own first and then add a few more ingredients in, because it's fine, but it, you know how sometimes the cream cheese doesn't get fully blended. So right. I'm going to beat it a little bit more, and that just would have made it easier. So that is that dessert. And like I said, that's one of my favorites because it's healthy. It's got the pumpkin puree in it. It's super easy. It only takes minutes. And so far it's gotten rave reviews for anything that I've done there. So
wonderful.
It is 12:56. And as I said, this has been like an experiment to do this class for the first time with actually making a dessert. So my apologies for not getting through the other desserts that we were going to discuss today, but I am going to send you all those recipes. What I like about them across the board is that they're super easy to make. And so I would say just experiment and see what you think, and let me know if you try some of these. I would love to have you come back, and maybe the next time we'll actually make a different dessert, see how that goes. But talk about that. We're going to be doing more classes with desserts as time goes on. We're getting a better feel for how we want to do classes with cooking from the kitchen and highlighting desserts. So stay tuned. There will be a lot of new things coming. I'm going to share my screen here just to wrap us up here for the day. And I guess I do have enough time to at least show you that these were the other desserts. We have a flourless chocolate chip chickpea blondie, and this is like the black beans. You're going to use a can of chickpeas, highly nutritious. And again, no flour, it's substituted for the flour, and you're making a blondie here. So instead of using something dark and making a brownie, you're making a blondie with a little bit of sea salt on top. And these are little bars. So these are small portions. And then there's a healthy yogurt cake that has a nice apricot or citrusy type of glaze that you just use a little bit of jam that you've warmed on the stove. So it's a judicious use of some sugar calories with some lemon zest in it. So there's your lemon flavor. Here's the brownies. This is what they look like when they're finished. They're dense and they're not real super thick or cakey. And I've got a vegan or a pecan pie here that would be fun to do sometime, because this was a nice find for me. I love pecan pie, but it's insane how many calories and bad things are in pecan pie. This one is, relatively speaking, much healthier. So that really brings us to the end of the session. We've covered some things here, more so than others, but we've I think talked about quite a bit. And my next classes are this Mexican fiesta coming up at 3 o'clock. And I'm doing an Earth Day class tomorrow about a picnic, activities and things you might want to do to celebrate Earth Day outside, since we could all use a little bit of that. And then I'm developing a class on quinoa. So if you like that grain, quinoa, and you want to know some things to do with it and how to cook it well, I can share some thoughts with you on that. And also great spring meals in 30 minutes. You'll get my email after the class with all the links and with an opportunity to share things with friends. So if you can bring some other folks to the classes, that would be great. That's how we keep things growing here. That's how we keep getting some, we want to get more speakers, big name speakers in. I'm talking to some, or will be talking to some cookbook authors. I have a meal planning organization that I'm talking with as well. So we've got exciting plans for new programming, but we need to make sure that we're growing our audience as well. So invite your friends and also any organizations in your community that you think would be interested and get connected with us. Has anyone attended the Rick Steves session? We had
what's that?
As a speaker, the travel guy, Rick Steves. He was fantastic, and we've got a series of travel going on right now around the things that Rick Steves talks about. So more like that we'll be doing in other areas. So invite a friend. And,
Thank you.
And thank you again for coming. Please provide your feedback. And it looks like, if there's anybody who would like to stay for a moment after, if you have questions I didn't answer, I'm happy to help you with that, or to provide you with any other connection to other classes. Thank you so much. Yes.
I was just wondering, how many calories are you saving for these recipes? Like, say, is it a lot, or is it a little, or is there a big difference?
Well, so like a typical cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory, I think is somewhere in the neighborhood of
800.
Well, it is like that. It is like that compared to this recipe. And usually one of the things that I don't have with me that I always have at my desk when I do this class is that profile. So I apologize, but yeah, I don't have that. But I'm looking at the nutritional breakdown for this one that we just did. It's 214 calories. That's the other winning thing about this. This cheesecake is 214 calories. That's in 8 servings, so slightly higher with the 6 servings. There's only 16 grams of sugar in that overall, and only 2.9 grams of saturated fat.
Okay, what about the brownies?
The brownies. They're not less fattening. They're not less in calories. They're just better in good. They're just better in good ingredients.
Health wise. Okay. Yeah, because I'm like, I'm a chocolate brownie person.
Yeah, they're about equal in calories, but they're way better with sugar and with the flour or the carbohydrates. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It was a great class.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
It was a great class. It was, Deb. Thank you.
Risha, thank you.
Great class
Steve,
as always, Deb.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you. And I was on Eventbrite checking all that out. So
Oh, good.
a little bit at a time. I'm trying to get everything in and just doing a little research and understanding. It's great.
It is. It's a lot, isn't it?
I signed
Lot
up
to
for
offer.
a few so that I could see a little bit of what they do and how they do it.
Oh, good, good,
Yeah,
good.
I
Okay,
appreciate
well then, that's good. Okay, okay. Well, you guys enjoy your day.
Bye.
Get
Thank you
ready for
very
another
much.
class. Okay, bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Martha.
Deb. That was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Very welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye, Deb.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Todd.